Yeah. I've had a life of adventures, and I look back on giving up being a fancy engineer as being the best thing I ever did.
Mm.
Immediately you had to do some things. Television gone, credit cards gone.
Mm.
Can't have credit cards.
It's a little bit different from what I saw on Google Street View, which is interesting. So that is the place with the solar panels back there. The goddess is alive and magic is afoot. Nothing is as it appears to be, even when one is absolutely certain.
And she and her hubby, who was they both lived up here, and she had a farm up here, and she's gone down to Pemberton. But the Pemberton I remember, there were very few houses.
I bet.
But I'm pretty sure there was a gas station on the corner once you'd reached the junction.
Yeah.
From that place, I only once I went over the Gold River, and the pass over there was almost as crazy as coming down to Lillooet from Duffy Lake.
Yeah. Well, I've done that whole loop once, at the
Anderson Lake is great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And did you go up the High Lion Pass, Shalal? So you can go all the way to Lillooet and round Anderson Lake that way.
Yeah.
But there's also, if you go up the Darcy Road, Birkin, Darcy.
Well, that's the BC. You're talking about the BC Hydro. There was a road which goes to Seton Lake.
I think it's called Mission Mountain Pass.
I don't know.
It's like a.
But it goes to Seton Lake.
Yes, I believe so, and that's another route that I've done both of those.
You've done that.
Yeah, and this was in a Ford Fiesta with no, kind of like maybe your MG, just no traction. We were just drifting all over the place and managed to get over these.
Well, that's amazing, because I remember being at Nairn Falls once, and two vehicles came in and they said they'd just done the Seton Road, and one of them was a Land Rover and the other was a Toyota Land Cruiser, and the Land Rover had to tow the Land Cruiser. Oh. I never did that road because after hearing all that I thought, this is just too crazy. Yeah, the first place I thought about buying was, what was it called? There was an art gallery. It was close to Squamish. Birkin? No, not Birkin. No. There was an art gallery restaurant.
So more Whistler, you mean? The Whistler side? Or?
No, it was close.
Does that mean?
It was a tiny little village close to Squamish.
Yeah. So do you mean? There's Furry Creek is one of those. No. There's Porto Cove.
No.
There's what's it called? I've stayed there. Britannia Beach. That's another.
But that was before Squamish. No, it's just after Squamish.
Okay. Bracken.
Yes.
Brackendale.
I thought about buying there, and I chickened out of it and bought myself an apartment in Vancouver. But it would have been about the same amount of money. The apartment in Vancouver cost me $35,000. High up on a high rise.
Wow. So you must have had great views.
I had a fantastic. I was 20th floor.
In Comox, you said?
In Vancouver, on Vancouver's West End.
Okay.
On Comox Street.
Okay.
And Comox and Denman.
Oh.
And I had a view of English Bay, Stanley Park.
Oh, lovely.
And certainly West Van.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the reason I stayed in Canada was Yoho Park. The reason I came to... Stop. the reason I came to Smithers was this guy with the one hand. He kept on telling me that I should go and see Smithers. So this is 1974, 75, 76, 77, and he keeps on telling me, and so I did briefly come in 76, 77, oh 76, 76, yep, and I went just. That's right. I wanted to go and see Virginia Falls, and I got north of Grand Prairie and all that.
Oh yeah.
And
I got stuck there once.
and I saw this wonderful road which was being made, and my little MG couldn't handle the mud, so I had to turn right, and I thought, oh, what a bore. So I'm not going to Virginia Falls. What am I going to do? Oh yeah, Smithers, Prince Rupert. Let's go there. And so I did. And I took a photograph at the top of Hungry Hill.
Oh, that's yes, I know what that is. Yeah.
And just today I saw a photograph of it taken in 1930. I could recognise the view. It was the same thing.
Looking over towards Hudson Bay Mountain.
Yeah, looking straight down this wonderful.
Yeah.
Someone remarked that his dad had once put his truck into neutral and drifted down and got all the way to the bottom and just round the corner. I have done that once, and I don't think I got as far as the corner, but yeah. I've had a life of adventures, and I look back on giving up being a fancy engineer as being the best thing I ever did. Immediately you had to do some things. Television gone, credit cards gone. Can't have credit cards. In fact, I remember walking to the Royal Bank in Calgary in 1979 and saying, I owe you $5,000. And they said, well, you can't just pay it off. And I said, I can't? And they said, no. And I said, well, can I deposit $5,000 into an account? And could you monthly take out a payment? And 5 or 6 years later, the Royal Bank sent me a cheque for the money that I'd accrued.
Oh.
And that paid off the whole debt, but I'd been gaining interest.
Well, that worked out well.
I suspect, because it went through 1980, I remember seeing an advertisement for Canada savings bonds at 20%.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that is why after that they made flexible interest.
Oh, I've heard about this, yeah.
Crazy things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he had told me about, so I went through Smithers, and then I came back to Vancouver for a few years, and what he told me about his life in Smithers, just, oh my gosh, this is where I want to go. But I got myself tied up with a woman. We go to see Smithers, then we go to see the Rockies, and she says, let's go in the Rockies because it's cheaper. And living in the Robson Valley, big problem. That you're at 2,700 feet. The mountains are 8,500, and and the valley is 3 miles wide. You're like living between walls.
Yeah.
They tend to be up to 10 miles long, and then there's another wall. And
so not much sunlight especially in the winter
I lived
time.
on the wrong side of the valley, and I actually went from the 5th of December to the 5th of January without any sun at all. And when it was 42, 45 degrees below, and you looked across the valley into beautiful sunshine, Yeah. So after 9 years actually in living there.
This was in Dunster, was it?
In Dunster. Well, Dunster was technically postal address was Dunster. We lived 7 miles from it. It was actually called Roush Valley. So I lived 10 miles. Do you think miles at all? Or are you totally
I'm miles. It's still miles in England. So.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, they're wonderfully archaic and stubborn. Well, 10 miles off the highway, and another 20 miles to get myself to McBride. So I lived a life for 9 years there of self-sufficiency, and I created a farm out of nothing.